everybody? This is Jack Delaney of YourFantasyFootballCoach.com, and I apologize for sounding a little stuffed up, but I'm fighting a cold right now. And this is going to be the first mock draft that I take part in for April. I'm actually going to do 100 mock drafts, so I'm going to be doing about 3 or 4 a day and just recording the results. I'm just kind of looking to see, where certain players are going. And I'm going to record the first 3 rounds. It'll be boring to sit through an entire one, so I'm going to do the first 3 rounds and then showcase my results at the end. So right now, just starting off, we have Le'Veon Bell going first, which is interesting because he's facing a possible 4-game suspension, but he's going to most likely miss at least 2. This is a non-PPR draft, though, so you're going to see a lot more focus on the running backs to start off than you would see, wide receivers going. So my prediction, probably the first 5 picks are going to be running backs from some of the other mock drafts I've been taking part in. That's pretty much the standard protocol. So we have a full draft, though, other than the last spot, which is the computer, but... Okay, so position 2 time now. It's Adrian Peterson, which I think if he wouldn't have timed out, that obviously wouldn't have been Adrian Peterson, but I think people are still picking him as a top 6 pick, even though if we don't know where he's going to be right now. So we got Jamal Charles going 3rd. I'll probably see Marshawn Lynch here. I don't know Eddie Lacy. I think Eddie Lacy is going to have a good year. He's actually one of my, I think I actually have him ranked as a top running back right now with Le'Veon Bell facing his 2-game suspension. So it's a good pick at the 4th spot. And like I said, it's definitely going to be really running back heavy, which creates some value towards the end of the draft. There's Calvin Johnson. People... kind of his down year, they're kind of avoiding him a little bit, so that creates a lot of opportunity towards the back end of your draft. I think you might even be able to get him at the start of the 2nd round, which is crazy, but that's kind of the way things are going. And unfortunately, it looks like people are timing out here a little bit. And who do we got? So there's Marshawn Lynch. And again, that was a timeout, so that was a computer pick, but that's probably what happened anyway. So we see the first wide receiver off the board, Antonio Brown. And now I'm going to be next after the 7th pick, so I need to start planning on what I'm going to do. Let's see. So LeSean McCoy is available, DeMarco Murray, Matt Forte. I think I'm going to go wide receiver here, though, depending on what the 7th pick does. But so Dez Bryant's available, Odell Beckham Jr. I wouldn't pick him as a first-round pick, though, especially not where I'm at. Okay, so Arian Foster goes there. So I think, like I said, I want to see if I can get Calvin Johnson at that 8th spot. So I'm going to go with Demaryius Thomas. I was also kind of debating Dez Bryant because I think the Cowboys are going to run it a lot more. I want to see what happens at the draft if they draft a running back, but Dez Bryant could see some upside with DeMarco Murray leaving. We have Matt Forte leaving the board at 9. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 7 running backs off the board right now, 2 wide receivers, and there's still LeSean McCoy and DeMarco Murray left. Okay, there goes Odell. Yeah, if I can get Calvin Johnson and Demaryius Thomas, I'll be extremely happy. I don't know if that's going to work out that way, but there goes Dez. There's LeSean. Computer's probably going to take, okay, Gronkowski. Probably a running back here. The only way I don't think at this point I could get Calvin Johnson is if the 9 pick takes him. C.J. Anderson. Let's see who 9 takes. And there goes Calvin, like I thought. Okay. So DeMarco Murray is still available. And then from there, it's kind of a drop-off. So I don't want a running back right now because I think I can find ones later in the draft. I'm going to go with Jordy Nelson here. Even though I believe he turns 30 this year, and a lot of people are actually talking him down. For a lot of reasons, there are a lot of reasons, but for some reason people just don't like him. So they're kind of dropping his value for next season. It sort of happens every time he has like a really good season. People just go, oh, Jordy Nelson. So don't be afraid what other people are saying about him not having as good a year. It's going to be hard to replicate the same kind of numbers, but he still has a healthy Aaron Rodgers, so there's no reason to believe he won't be a top 5 wide receiver next year. And if he doesn't work out, I still have Demaryius Thomas. So this is going to be another timeout, it looks like. And this is part of basically the zero running back theory. I'm taking wide receivers here to limit the risk of running backs. Because at my spot, I don't really know. DeMarco Murray could be an okay pick in the second round. I just don't like any of the other backs that I would basically have to pick if I didn't pick DeMarco Murray. So I'd have to pick Jeremy Hill, Mark Ingram, Alfred Morris, Justin Forsett, Lamar Miller. And I don't want to take those guys as my second pick in the second round when I have a player like Jordy Nelson available. Or I have a player like A.J. Green or Randall Cobb, Alshon Jeffrey. All those guys are still available. And we see it, quarterback off the board super early. So last year I was able to draft Andrew Luck in the 5th and 6th round in a lot of my drafts. This year I don't want to pay the price tag of drafting him at the end of the first round or the start of the second. A guy I'm looking at is actually Ryan Tannehill. I think with improved weapons and if the offensive line gets a little more healthy, he can do some big things this year. And a lot of people knock him for his arm strength, but he's actually the most sacked quarterback in 2013, and he was the 3rd most sacked in 2014. So he just needs more time to be able to throw it, and he'll be okay. So we see A.J. Green off the board near the end of the second round, which is a good pickup, and it's a pretty good start to a lineup to have Marshawn Lynch and A.J. Green. We'll see if the first 4 picks, if they double up on running backs or if they start taking receivers. So there's Aaron Rodgers off the board, second quarterback. Looks like it's going to time out. So running backs, probably see Jeremy Hill go off the board, either 3, 2, or 1. These last 3 picks. So Alshon Jeffrey. I believe that Adrian Peterson was a timeout pick originally, so we'll see what happens here. Yep, there goes Jeremy Hill. And let's see if 1 doubles up on running backs. So there goes Justin Forsett. And like I said in the second round, like I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, but for fantasy football purposes, I just couldn't take Justin Forsett in the second round. So doing the zero running back strategy, that helps kind of eliminate some of that risk, and you're not just forced to kind of take picks just because positions kind of getting low and there's a run on a certain amount of positions. So we're probably going to see a little bit of run now, though, on the wide receiver. So you see Emmanuel Sanders, Randall Cobb. There's Mark Ingram off the board, who I think can have a good year next year, especially if the Saints are more focused on running the ball. Alfred Morris. There goes Jimmy Graham, 3rd round, which could end up as an okay pick. I think I'll see a lot less yardage. in Seattle, but he should still have the touchdowns. Assuming this person's going to take a running back here. There goes Lamar Miller. All right, it's on me. So if I want to go running back, there's Carlos Hyde, Joique Bell, Frank Gore. I like Frank Gore. I think I can get him in the 4th round, though. I'd take him there, even though I'm doing a 0 RB. Wide receivers, there's Mike Evans, Kelvin Benjamin, DeAndre Hopkins. I think I like Mike Evans here, so I'm going to take him. So Demaryius Thomas, Jordy Nelson, and Mike Evans, it's a pretty studly 1, 2, 3 wide receivers. And a lot of people go, well, you can only start 2 or blah, blah, blah in whatever leagues. The point is you can put one of these guys in the flex, and if you take 5 wide receivers, even if 2 of them don't work out, you're probably going to have 3 pretty solid guys. If all 5 work out, then you can just trade them. There's nothing wrong with loading up on the talented wide receivers because you can find guys who are going to finish as top 15 or top 10 backs in the later parts of your draft. And it's a lot easier sometimes too to get the rookie running backs later in the draft who can, make a fantasy impact the first year. So Frank Gore goes there, so I won't be able to get him. We got Peyton Manning off the board, so there's 3 quarterbacks. Let's see if this person's doing a 0 RB because they have 2 wide receivers right now. So they go Trey Mason, interesting choice, and then Kelvin Benjamin. So that was the start of the first 3 rounds, and I'll basically showcase the rest of my draft and let you know my thought process behind everything else. So I'll be back in a little bit. Guys, so when I left off in round 3, I had Demaryius Thomas, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans. So round 4 came around. I still wanted to continue with the 0 running back strategy, take another wide receiver. Went with DeAndre Hopkins. He's had a pretty good year in his rookie year. He was a little overshadowed, but last year he kind of broke out a little bit more. And with Andre Johnson gone, even with a kind of questionable quarterback situation, I think he's the main guy and the go-to guy. So he should be able to produce top 15, maybe top 12 numbers. So he's a good player to grab in round 4. I was kind of surprised that he was still available. So when it came back around to me in round 5, I didn't really like the wide receivers that were available. And if you check out the draft going this way, at this point, Keenan Allen was available. I could have taken him. Golden Tate was available. Mike Wallace and Victor Cruz, but I just didn't really like any of those guys, and I like Jarvis Landry, but I thought it was a little early to spend a 5th-round pick on him. So I ended up taking Rashad Jennings. I think Shane Vereen is going to end up having the best year, but just to kind of start things off, I think Rashad Jennings is going to get most of the work, and Andre Williams is going to be thrown in as well. I kind of wanted to get Shane Vereen just to just kind of back myself up in case Jennings didn't work out, but I waited too long and wasn't able to get him. But I'm still happy getting Rashad Jennings in the 5th round and ended up getting Jarvis Landry in the 6th. And I'm not a huge fan of Doug Martin, but in the 7th round, I couldn't really pass him up. I wanted to get Charles Sims to pair him up with as well, but again, he got taken in the 10th round, and I wasn't able to do that. So looking at the 8th round, I went with Jordan Cameron just because tight ends were kind of flying off the board at this point. I think he could have a pretty good year in Miami as long as he stays healthy and he can develop a connection with Ryan Tannehill. But I think as long as he stays healthy, he's a solid guy. He could be a top 5 top 5 tight end. So I had Reggie Bush. It's kind of questionable how he's going to perform with Carlos Hyde and how Kaepernick and how that whole offense is going to do, but he's proven to be a solid player in the past, and he normally starts off the season pretty strong, and everybody's always like, oh, I should have drafted Reggie Bush. So hopefully he just finds some more consistency in San Francisco. So I was talking up Ryan Tannehill earlier, and I nabbed him with the 10th spot. I would have liked to have Eli Manning. I think he's kind of a candidate for a pretty strong year, but he got taken, you can see here, in the 8th round. So that's why I selected Tannehill in the 10th, and I think he's going to have a good season. Just in case Cameron doesn't work out, I thought Zach Ertz was an incredible value in the 11th round. He started off last year strong, but his blocking skills weren't up to par with what Chip Kelly wanted, so Brent Selleck kind of took away his value a little bit there. But with another year in the league and some more practice behind him and more experience, I think Ertz can work a bigger role into the offense as long as the blocking skills have improved. And for my next two picks in the 12th and 13th round, I took Lorenzo Taliaferro back up to Justin Forsett, and they're going to probably split a lot of carries, and in case anything happened to Justin Forsett, he's the guy you want to own. So I'm kind of surprised the Forsett owner didn't back him up by this point, at least by the 12th round. But again, if anything happens to Forsett or Lorenzo just kind of emerges, then I'm going to be sitting pretty and didn't have to spend a super early pick to get it back who could make some fantasy impact. And with Montee Ball, a lot of people just have either forgotten about him or given up on him. And C.J. Anderson looked really good at the end of the year, but they're not willing to give up on Montee Ball yet. He suffered some injuries, and he may just not have been ready the first couple years that they're throwing him into the mix. But this is kind of the do-or-die season for him, and I think Kubiak's going to give him a chance, even though they kind of hinted that C.J. Anderson is going to be the starter. But they invested a lot in Montee Ball, so I think they're going to wait to see what they have. And if he doesn't do anything this year, then he'll probably be on another team. But I think they'll give him a chance just to see more what he has. The Colts are actually pretty strong towards the end of the last fantasy season. Again, I don't place a whole lot of importance on defenses in the draft because it's pretty impossible to tell how somebody's going to perform. A lot of people spend early picks on Seattle or Houston, but when you have teams like Philadelphia come out of nowhere and they're the top fantasy defense, you just can't predict those type of things. So there's not really a whole lot of science behind my pick for the defense right there. I just needed a defense, and from the teams available, that's the one I liked. And the last pick, kicker, is not that important to me. I was actually thinking about grabbing a backup to Ryan Tannehill and getting RG3, but I decided to go with Montee Ball with the 13th pick, so I had to pick a defense and a kicker there. So my final team, pretty happy with it. Starting quarterback's going to be Tannehill. Wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, and Jarvis Landry. Running backs, Rashad Jennings, Doug Martin, Reggie Bush, Lorenzo Taliaferro, and Montee Ball. And this is obviously going to look different after the draft. There's going to be some rookie running backs I have my eye on and some other positions as well. But for right now in April, before the draft, this is kind of some of the stuff you can expect, and especially in non-PPR leagues. A lot of emphasis early on in running backs. We see DeMarco Murray fell to the second round in this draft, and LaShawn McCoy was at the end of the first round. I'm trying to see if there's any other kind of big surprises. It all depends who you play with, too. I was a little surprised to see two quarterbacks go so early, but again, it all depends who you're drafting with. Jimmy Graham was a third-round pick, which I think is pretty standard from what I'm seeing. So that could end up being a value, or, it's just hard to tell with what Seattle has in plan for him. And Ben Roethlisberger in the 6th round was a little early, I thought. I think Cam Newton's going to have a real good year, but I think other people think that as well. So I'm seeing him go between the 5th and the 7th round. So if you want him, I think he's going to end up being a value in any of those rounds. I wish I could get him a little later, but I'm probably going to start targeting him as the season gets closer, a little earlier on, like the 6th or the 5th round maybe. But maybe he falls. Maybe he just kind of stays around the 7th spot, and you'll end up getting a value there. And see Sam Bradford off the board at the 11th pick. I'm sorry, in the 11th round. And yeah, that's Jay Cutler. That's actually a pretty good value in the 13th round. Yeah, nothing too crazy here, but again, real running back heavy, and then you'll see some runs on wide receivers. So you start to see wide receivers kind of falling off the board, the second, third, and then middle of the fourth. But one of the benefits of the zero running back is when everybody else is kind of see a lot of wide receivers kind of going off the board, or quarterbacks or other positions. I can start taking running backs that people, since they already have two or three, they can't afford to take another one. They have to start filling some other key positions. So I was able to get Jennings in the 5th, like I said, and Doug Martin in the 7th. I think those are two pretty good values. So this is the first mock draft, and there's going to be 99 more. So thanks for checking this one out.